Hi, everyone. Thanks for those of you who have logged in on time. I'm your host, Adam Asnes. We do this every month, and we've got an interesting discussion planned here with Esther Curiel. And I'll introduce her a little bit more formally in a moment. Um, as we get started, I do almost always use this very first minute or two to just talk about the flow of the webinar so that in part to give other people a chance to log in because everybody always comes to these things a minute or two late. I want to, I know you've all been using Zoom for years, but I want to address um, reaching out to us. I always really welcome questions that come from the audience, but I want to encourage to use the Q&A interface rather than the chat. I mean, if you need to say a chat like I can't hear you or something like that, sure, use that. But if you could address your questions through the Q&A interface, that's really helpful for me to only to look in one place, because when I'm talking to Esther, it's harder to multitask and over both sections. We do address the questions at the end, so I'll be asking Esther questions this whole webinar. Don't be afraid to just write it down right away, and don't worry if we cover it in the next slide, whatever your question is. It really doesn't matter. Uh, uh, Nobody holds that against you. So the other thing is, if you're like me, write the question down right away. Otherwise, like I forget the question. And then the second thing is, if I don't forget the question, then I'm thinking about the question and not paying attention to the presentation. So just you know, after doing this for a lot of years, I always suggest that people just write the question down right away. And don't worry about grammar or spelling or anything like that. If English isn't your first language, it's really fine. We've all been through that. So in that case, I'm going to get started now. A lot of you have logged in. There's a good amount of participants here. We also are co-broadcasting on LinkedIn Live. I do not monitor the LinkedIn Live questions, although we have either Kate or Daniel will send me a Slack if you have a question on there. But again, we'll address those at the end. We did get 3 questions from audience members ahead of time, which is kind of nice. We send an interview. You probably got an email saying, "Hey, it's tomorrow. If you have questions, write them down." Well, sometimes people do. So we'll probably take those first. Okay, with that, AI being the subject of the day, and you either view that as a threat or a tool or maybe a little bit of both, depending upon where you come from in the industry, we're going to get to it. So with that, first, I need to introduce Esther. Thank you very much, Esther, for joining our call. That's really great. She's in Dublin. She leads globalization and localization initiatives at her company Zoetis, which makes animal medicine and diagnostics, something unfortunately near and dear to my heart. I spent yesterday at the vet with one of our pups. We have a couple. But anyway, that's a whole nother story.
Hope that went well, Adam.
Well, no, not
God.
really. Unfortunately, she's 10.
Mm,
In any case, we're kind of nursing her right now. But
yeah.
yeah, in any case, uh, uh, Esther is a contributor to Gala. She's been active in the past and probably presently with women in localization, like so many. But she has been speaking on AI at Loquworld, so she's one of the people who has real experience. I'll also say, not listed here, is that Esther comes from both the vendor side and the customer side. So she has a history going all the way back to ITP, if some of you remember, if you've been around long enough in the industry. We were just talking about people we know from there. SDL, Vistatech, companies that she's worked with, also companies that I've worked with over the years quite a bit. So, but never as an employee, but as a partner. So that's kind of nice. We all kind of, it's funny, if you put all localization people together, we all have some common histories typically. So that's neat. All right, let's get to it. Time for me to shut up and just ask questions and let Esther talk. All right. So let's just talk about Zoetis. Let's get some baseline. At Zoetis, if Esther, if you could tell a little bit about your role.
Sure. Yeah, so I joined about 4 years ago, and my remit was to build the localization and globalization function within the diagnostics business unit. So that's what I have been doing with a team of, we're now 4 people in the team. And we're supporting different types of content, product, marketing, medical, training, etc. For in about 20 languages for just short of 100 markets. So that's keeping us busy, definitely. And we are also very, very exciting for us. We are also building our own globalization product as well. So that's it's an exciting
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
Okay. I'm making a note of that.
And I think one of my colleagues is in the call as well, who is quite critical in this effort actually to build our own product.
All right.
So
Good.
hello,
Good.
Ian.
Good. Good. All right. So there's a few other questions here, but I want to focus on the last one. How does regulation influence your localization strategy?
Mhm. Um, we are a heavily regulated industry, similar enough, to human health. So what it means is that risk, control of risk, that becomes critical. So, and I see an opportunity here with AI to actually help us control that risk rather than just, of course, we use it as well for speed, for, cost control, etc. But risk management, that's one of the key things that it helps us with. The environment really is, there are complex frameworks for regulation and they vary per market as well. So what this means in practice is that there are time-consuming, lengthy regulatory approval processes, both for the source content before any localization starts, but also for the localized pieces as well for the target languages. So again, timelines get there's pressure on timelines. That might be, some people might have a misconception that life sciences go slower. It doesn't necessarily. It goes. Some of the processes are slower. The bits in between need to get compressed, need to be done faster and at quality as well.
I am guilty of that misconception. So
I was as well before joining the industry. Yeah.
Okay. For people who don't work in animal health diagnostics, what actually happens if a translation error slips into diagnostic or product content? What's the real world stake?
It varies, like in any industry, so it ranges between mild confusion to more severe, but really in the worst cases, it's really affecting clinical outcomes. It might lead to misdiagnosis, incorrect diagnosis, which in turn, can affect the medical outcomes for the pet, the owners who feel very strongly, as you well know,
Yeah.
and the veterinarians themselves. So it's and that's why I'm saying, risk really is the big thing that we try to mitigate and manage. And,
Right.
yeah.
Right. I will say I've been involved in human products where product error was pretty serious. Where it's the first time I'd see, this is years ago, but it was the first time I'd seen an internationalization issue be actually fatal in one case, and that's why they hired us. But I won't name the company for obvious reasons, but it was a real surprise. That's an extreme case.
Yeah. Yeah. We're lucky we haven't seen any in the 4 years I've been here.
Uh,
That critical, but
right, right,
those are the stakes,
right.
absolutely.
Yeah, the detail was a type of treatment that was a radioactive scalpel, and so the measurement of radians is done differently in different parts of the world, and
Hmm.
it's definitely something the nurse or the radiologist should have caught, but the software fell out of locale because of
Oh,
unexpected clicking
yeah.
and fell out of locale, and so the measurement was suddenly different. That's the deep detail,
Hmm.
but again, really old history. What's your first reaction to like let's go back a couple of years, which is amazing. It's not even that long. Um,
No.
and I'm really talking about true LLMs, not the AI that is machine translation. But what's your first reaction to AI and localization?
The first one, I have to say it's both, like excitement, of course, because there's so much
Hmm.
opportunity there
Hmm. Hmm.
to do things at scale that we couldn't do before.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, huge excitement, but a big dose of caution as well, because it is,
Hmm.
I'm very conscious that we're at the start of something new, a little bit less now,
Right,
but still, how we build it, how we shape it, that's going to have a
right, right,
real, how we shape it now, um, it's going to set the tone for the next decades. So kind of how do we do that consciously in a manner where we end up still being in control, but
right,
also in a
right.
manner that is ethical as well. What do we want
Well,
to build here that we want to be proud of
right,
five, ten
right.
years
Well,
from now?
well, let's just think back, like when you're first using it, how has your willingness to use it changed, and maybe why?
Hmm. I mean, from like the willingness to use it has been there. What wasn't there from
Hmm.
the beginning was how can we use this um, under we have strong governance at Zoetis, so how can
Hmm.
we start experimenting with it and so on, but still, work within the government governance railguards? Um, how can we mitigate the
Hmm.
all the
Hmm.
hallucinations and so on, which is what we all heard about, a
Right,
few
right,
years ago. We
right,
were all
right,
talking about how,
right,
we can't use this. It's full of hallucinations.
right.
So that was the first reactions, I suppose, kind of how do we harness this? And
Hmm.
also
Hmm.
the big worry of are we going to end up just as providers of raw data to someone else who will then build the solutions and will be relegated to kind of, uh, a menial job, so to
Hmm.
speak. So that was a
Hmm.
big concern. And it's only in the last year or so that I'm seeing the light and I'm seeing
Oh,
the,
good.
the, the
Uh-huh.
unique selling proposition that our teams bring, and how valuable that is.
Okay, that's a very exciting answer. Um, very good. All right. Um, I'm going to focus next to, I'm not, by the way, to people, I'm not going to necessarily ask every question on the slide, mostly because we don't have enough time. But what are your non-negotiables? What won't you give up?
Hmm. I think it's that control, like
Hmm.
that's a non-negotiable. I want our team to be, we are builders, we are architects. I don't want to give
Hmm.
that up. That that is certainly
Right,
a non-negotiable.
right.
So that and the ethical part, like that's always there at the back of my mind as well. How do we build this in a manner like there's an entire supply chain behind us as well. Their roles are
Hmm.
changing. Um,
Hmm.
we can build this better with them as well.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
how does that look like? Like, yeah.
Got it, got it. Okay. I've seen demos of systems that didn't have a mechanism for review, for instance.
Hmm. Yeah.
And thought, oh, that's not going to fly.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's key. And again, going back to that, I was talking about risk.
uh-huh.
Um, this is something that for this product that we're building ourselves, that's been baked in from inception, like from the planning
Uh-huh.
stage. How do we build in those mechanisms there
Right,
to
right.
measure and manage? Like we're obviously trying to do quality upstream and
Uh-huh.
fit systems, etc. Give harnesses. But downstreams, there's still going to be issues. This is AI. This is not perfect. Humans are not
Right, right,
perfect.
right.
We still need those mechanisms downstream, and we needed to feed back into the system and improve the system with minimum effort, and in a manner that is very repeatable and scalable.
I totally get it. I mean, if someone was to evaluate our release history of our own products in the last year, you can see we're going in a certain direction, and it agrees with some of the things that you're saying. But this isn't about us, so I'll
Yes.
keep moving. I can't resist. All right. So um, a lot of I think for a lot of professionals in this industry, we're getting hit both top down, saying, "Hey, why aren't why is this so expensive? Why aren't we just using AI?" We also, kind of, I've seen a lot where developers, I mean, if you're working with Claude, you can just have it localize um, right away as you're writing the code. So how do you build the case the other way with leadership? Um, how do you A, build the case to use it, B, build the case for, as you said, risk management, control. You talked about control.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
how do you grab that
Um,
back?
yeah, I'll give an example, of how we mm, came to build this product ourselves.
Mhm,
So we started by experimenting. We had seen the business, the use case, and
mhm, mhm,
it was two-way conversations between our clients, who are veterinarians, and our
mhm,
specialized Zoetis consultants. So these
mhm,
communications were happening, but there wasn't much uptake in international markets because, of course, you have the language gap.
mhm,
Um, More so in some markets than others, of course, we're talking about very highly educated professionals. Many of them speak English very well,
mhm,
but despite that, there were some markets where this service didn't really have much uptake. So the use case was there. What we did was experiment a little bit in a relatively, again, we have strong governance, so we did have to go through some approvals and processes even to be able to experiment with, hey, we know you can be, this is something that could be solved with machine translation, etc. But is it being solved efficiently or not? Can we
mhm,
do it better with AI? So we started experimenting with that and testing different solutions.
mhm,
Um, and we were from the very beginning, we tried to focus on what really mattered. We're trying
mhm,
to mitigate risk here. Not all errors are equal. We want to focus only on, or we want to be able to measure them all, but we want to focus on the crucial ones, the critical ones that will
mhm,
lead to misdiagnosis. So we put a lot of effort into designing an evaluation system that focus on those things and that involve the internal experts that would eventually be using it. So by doing that, we had very good data to be able
mhm,
to then go and present to leadership, hey, look at the results here. Look at the need. This is the need. This is the opportunity here. There was a bit of reframing, because one of the questions that kept coming up was, is this enough of a problem? Should we be investing effort or budget or anything into this? So
mhm,
having done the experimentation, the proof of concept, that gave us enough data to show, look how we can mitigate risk. But we also had qualitative data as well that we got through conversations with internal colleagues, but also with meetings with customers. And in particular, one thing that was very, very helpful was direct insights from a key opinion leader. These are basically influencers in the medical world. So they're external to us, but their opinion really matters, and it moves, you know, uh,
Okay.
it leads others
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
follow. So being able
Mhm.
to incorporate that, insights from this key opinion leader into the information we gave, that really helped build the case and kind of
Okay.
again show that opportunity and show the value. And that's the key thing. Is there enough value? Is there
Uh-huh.
enough value to warrant investment? If
Oh,
if that's not
got
clear,
it.
nothing else matters.
When with regard to maybe people in your organization, I don't even know, we didn't do this ahead of time. Were there people in the organization that maybe had jumped ahead and just used AI to provide translation without necessarily a process around that? And if that happened, how did you deal with it?
Hmm. So we found that out during the discovery process, as we spotted this use case, that
Mhm.
particular use case was not being, no one was jumping on the opportunity. So for us, it was, hey,
Okay.
this is ours. But during the discovery, we learned about exactly what you're saying. Some people had, some teams had used AI and it had been approved and so on, but the results weren't good. And they
Uh-huh.
weren't good because they weren't doing what globalization teams can do very well. We can provide the harnesses to make all this
Right.
better.
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I've had, plenty of times the conversation with people saying, "Oh, you don't have a business anymore because AI is going to replace you." I'm like, not so fast.
yeah,
For the
yeah,
same reasons you're mentioning, it's very powerful, but the average person doesn't necessarily is not in a position to judge whether something is good or not. Um,
yeah, yeah. It
and you
can
need a
fool you because
process.
there's some things like we found, for instance, when comparing, against machine translation and so on, the
Uh-huh.
domain expertise is a big word for an LLM, but the domain
Uh-huh.
knowledge can be very high in some languages. So it can
Right.
fool
Right.
you into feeling, yeah, this is perfect.
Right.
The problem
Right.
is
Well,
solved.
you also need some sort of uh, uh, a way so that you know that you're adequately prompting across the organization, not
Exactly.
necessarily taking an ad hoc approach to that. Once you have
Mm.
scale, I mean, what works for a 5-person development team doesn't necessarily work for a 50-person development team. So
Yeah,
you know, keeping that in mind. Anyway,
yeah, absolutely.
let's keep going. Um, uh, what changes once legal and quality teams become involved?
Mhm. Timelines. If I was to give you a one word answer, it would be timelines. Like yeah, there's a you know there's
It's not yeah,
governance brings stage gates, like long processes with gates that need to be cleared.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
And the one thing that I learned along this process, is you're not always in the room. So you have to be making sure that you have very good documentation from the very beginning. Um, Ideally, do a little bit of socialization of it with key key stakeholders before you even start going down the route, of the governance process. That helps kind of get the right.
I wrote that quote down. You're not always in the room. That's
You're not
just
always
so
in the room.
good.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, 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 yeah.
That is just so good.
Yeah.
What about I guess you could put this under legal, but security.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. So, yeah, for us, I mean, again, we have the strong governance across the company, but AI in particular has a governance board as well. So legal is in there,
mhm,
compliance, etc. There's several different um, functions in there. Um, so again, they're part of that approval cycle.
mhm, mhm.
But also one of the principles we have is there has to be oh my God, I can't find the word now, but it's basically it has to be clear to the user that AI has been used. So we have to have disclaimers, etc. Apart from obviously mitigating the risk as much as we can, etc. So this is the type of things, once you have things approved, you still have to have those conversations and agreements. What disclaimer is right, is the language correct for it, etc.
Mhm. Good, good, good. I'm just going to mention we're starting to get questions coming in. That's great. We will be addressing them at the end, as I said at the beginning, but sometimes people drop in later and they don't know that. If you could continue to use the Q&A interface rather than the chat, that's helpful for me for questions. All right, next slide here. Where has AI genuinely earned its place in your workflow? Not a pilot, actually in production.
Mhm. There's a couple of places, but the oldest use case that is really like this is working very well is for internal training content.
Uh-huh,
So we started with the low risk, low risk,
uh-huh,
low stakes content. Um, what we have in here is our language intelligence infrastructure. We'll probably talk about this a little bit more later on. That is plugged into our workflows in here. So what it allows is like all the harnessing work, etc. The feeding the system with the right information and context, etc. That's happening upstream. The translation
mhm,
cycle itself happens without intervention, and it gets published immediately. So this brought a lot of value because training
mhm,
is one area where very often in corporate settings, I found this in other places where I've worked as well. Internal training content tends to be left unlocalized more often than not, or
mhm,
maybe some key pieces get localized, not all of it.
mhm,
Um, and there is very often a cognitive barrier, in the local markets that
mhm,
it's hard
mhm,
to bypass. So this is one area where we found huge value, and we were able to use these, metrics from this and so on to show to leadership to build that trust in, hey, this team knows how to deal with AI, they can get real
mhm.
results, and yeah, there's positive
Interesting. So,
outcomes.
so that internal training material, was it, let's say, training for distributors or sales in-country sales teams, something like that?
Exactly, yeah, in country sales, in
Okay.
country field force, like support teams,
Okay.
and distributors as well. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right. So, um, did you decide that based on risk? How did you decide what comes first?
Yeah, risk was a big thing because it takes time to experiment and to, yeah, once you have those regulatory approval cycles in, again,
Hmm.
the timelines get extended. So we wanted feedback quickly and we wanted to experiment quickly. And this was a good, the internal content is not subject to the same regulatory approval processes. So it's faster to see is this working or not? Are we getting traction? And we have a
Okay.
large pool of people then to kind of obtain insights, checking with them, is this working for you? Are you finding it useful? Does it really enable
Got it.
you?
Got it. Um, I definitely want to ask this question about terminology just because it comes up so much
Hmm.
when in AI conversations. How do you keep your terminology accurate? How do you even apply it?
Yeah. Um, Terminology is quite key to what we do. So this is one key part of
Mhm,
this larger thing that
mhm,
I'm calling language intelligence. I didn't coin the term, by the
mhm,
way. um, but terminology is a key part. We've been putting a lot of effort into it. But again, we're only like a 4-year-old team. So we are still in the process of really building it up. What we have
mhm,
been doing is being very focused about what terminology matters in these days. With AI, the situation changes because the domain expertise in the LLMs is quite high. So we've found, for instance, that most of the medical terms tend to be okay across Western languages at least. They tend to be fine. You don't need to be feeding the system with that. And we all know, terminology, multilingual terminology
mhm,
processes
mhm,
are very time consuming, they're expensive, they're not fast.
mhm,
There's huge bottlenecks as well with approvals, etc. So what we did was come back to basics. What terminology matters really more so than other. Where what's the best bang for our buck,
Hmm.
So we found, for instance, coming back to this use case that I was saying about the two-way communication between our customers, and our consultants, the key terminology there that was really tripping the LLMs, where the LLMs were failing, it was not with the medical terminology. That was our original assumption. It was actually with acronyms, shorthand as well,
Hmm.
because this is user-generated content, so medical shorthand. In English and in other languages as well. It was that kind of thing that was really making the LLMs fail. So we focus on extracting that terminology, and then we experimented as well with figuring out how can we do this at scale. Again, multilingually, this would take forever. And there's so many languages that we need to
Hmm.
be able to cater for. How about we use the um, the strengths of the LLMs to our advantage? And we give enough context to the LLM so that it will understand the acronym or the abbreviation or the shorthand,
Hmm.
and based on that, it can give the correct translation. So this meant a bit of a refactoring of the um, what metadata do we want to use? How do we want to do this so that we can feed the correct information? We're using our terminology for humans, human translation. We're using it for machine translation. We're using it for
Hmm.
LLM translation. Inside LLMs and outside LLMs, how can we feed all of these to the different systems in a manner that we don't end up using a shorthand term in a proper translation? So we,
Hmm.
we we did that with metadata, and then with very clever prompting, and a bit of prompt engineering and context engineering, and just some scripting, to send the right content and the right terms with the right metadata to the right system.
That's awesome. One of the things that even comes up is have a terminology file and point to it with a URL as part of a prompt. I mean, that's sort of like a brute force way, but this sounds like a
Yeah,
lot more thought into it.
yeah.
Um,
Like the problem with that is that's a lot of context to be given the LLM. So in terms of token consumption and so
yeah,
on,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it can go a bit crazy.
Right, right, right. Okay. I actually really like what you said, like the general term management that the LLM was already there, that it was the acronyms,
Hmm.
which I can imagine are very different in different markets, particularly for your profession. But anyway, great stuff,
Hmm.
really great stuff. All right, I'm going to move on just because of time here. I want to make sure we have time for questions here. Um, I'm going to say, we've kind of addressed some of one. Let's go straight to the biggest lesson. What are some of the biggest lessons or things that get you excited about adopting AI in your environment?
The biggest lessons, I think, by trying to make things, by trying to give the correct context to the LLM, we're really finding our value here. And
Mhm.
again, I keep coming back to this idea of the unique selling proposition, because we're obviously not the only ones playing with AI and solving with AI.
Mhm.
Every other team is as well. And if they have language problems, they might not necessarily come to a language team for that. They might be thinking, if they have engineers or anything like that, they might be coming up with their own solutions. So um, we're learning how to harness the system. Um, so we're building those harnesses, we're building that language intelligence, and the terminology is I'm gonna call it basic level, because this is where we've seen the best results come from. But then you have a lot of additional, there's a lot of other types of language data that we can use, and kind of incorporating insights as well from review cycles and things like that into instructions and
Mhm.
etc. So we can do all that as well. So that whole package, that's a product as well. Like, I mean, I know I was talking about another,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a proper product that we were building, but this is a product that we can package and go to other teams and tell them, hey guys, what are you
hmm
doing? Like, what problems do you have? How are you solving? Where are you finding problems? And you'll often hear that the problems
uh-huh,
are in
uh-huh,
there's always problems in the language part. But these teams, this is not their primary area of focus. They don't
hmm
want to be dealing with this. So that was a good
hmm
learning, perhaps I had started with a fear 3 years ago of are we going to be left on the side? What I'm finding is that no, we're not. We really, um,
hmm hmm
we have unique value,
hmm
and building this language data, this infrastructure, it's the data plus the know-how plus the bit of engineering and so on. Building all of that, that's
hmm
giving us a lot of it's positioning us differently within the company, and it's just very exciting.
hmm
So
hmm hmm
yeah.
Um, let me ask you a similar question, and this is sort of um, we didn't write this ahead of time, so but it comes up for me all the time
Hmm.
because you've been on the vendor side. Um, these days, you can have like a structured prompt for an LLM, like you're doing. You can have a second LLM reviewing the results,
Hmm.
and then you have the crumbs that are left that maybe need a little human touch.
Yeah.
And it's always like it's totally a concern to me that translators might just not want to deal with it.
Hmm.
Like translators are human, so if all they're getting is the crumbs and these little snippets
Yeah.
to review, um, as an industry, how are we going to support that? Um,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so,
No, it's
honestly, I felt the same way with machine translation
eh, eh,
also. So it's the
totally,
same thing.
totally.
So, but
Yeah. Yeah.
do
Yeah.
you have an answer for that?
Yeah. Um, I probably don't have a full answer, but I have a kind of what I see as a way.
Uh-huh.
So it's like it's in the building of all the infrastructure, and then in the looking at the signals for what's not working,
Uh-huh.
and using those signals, you need linguistic expertise to be able to differentiate, hey, is this something that should fit into terminology? Is this something that should go into a style guide or an instructions document or something like
hmm
that? Or
hmm
is this something that is like, this is total nonsense? And we should
Uh-huh.
disregard completely, that judgment, that needs someone with expertise. So kind of like I I wouldn't see the linguist as just doing the cleanup work, but also the judgment work. At the moment, we're having both things.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um, but it's the judgment part and the building the better solution part that's where I see there's going to be more growth in there.
Uh-huh.
Like we've started to go with some of our regulated workflows where we have very little time to complete
hmm
things. We have started putting the effort, upstream in terms of using agents as well, to do source content analysis,
hmm
prepare the context and the harnesses better upstream, then doing the translation, like LLM based translation.
hmm
No human linguist at that point, because we do have the internal subject matter experts validating, as part of the regulatory cycles. So this is good
hmm
for them because they get the content sooner for
hmm
validation. It gives them a little bit of extra time. These are very, 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 very busy people. They're often bottlenecks. So they have a bit of extra time, but we're giving them good enough content. We're not giving them extra work because the content is so bad, because we put the
hmm
effort upstream. But then at the end of that cycle, where normally a linguist perhaps wouldn't get involved again, and they weren't involved in that middle cycle, the linguist becomes involved again in helping, like we're extracting insights from those, that validation cycle, extracting the insights, validating which ones are worth actually, which ones are real signals versus which ones are just noise. So it's more of I see them becoming language architects in a way.
hmm
Um,
hmm Okay. Okay. That's a great answer. All right. I think we're going on to audience questions here. As I mentioned, we got a few ahead of time. We already have 8 in the Q&A interface, 8 questions, so that's pretty cool. We've got 20 minutes till the half hour. If we don't get to your question, write it down anyway, and I'll, Esther, can we work together on any that maybe we don't get to? But anyway, let's move ahead. Okay, first question that came in ahead of time: how do you ensure enterprise organizational data isn't exposed to underlying large language model training sets when using a third-party localizations tools?
Yeah, we are very lucky because we have that strong governance. So we cannot use any tool that hasn't gone through the third-party risk management, data risk management, etc. So once it's only once those are passed and the organization is comfortable that there's no risk here, then we can use the tool, and we are following that strictly. It's in our interest as well. So
I'll just add that.
thankfully, it's not our problem. It's basically the answer.
Right.
It's
It's
someone else's
security's
problem within
problem.
the organization.
Yeah. But in most large organizations, I mean, you're not even allowed to go to
Yeah.
chatgpt.com or whatever. It's forbidden, you know.
hmm
And so you're using an account version of whatever LLM you're using, which is keeps the information of the organization within the organization. It may
Yeah.
be hosted on Azure or AWS or something like that, but it is private.
Yeah.
All right.
On the downside, Adam, I'll add as well that, of course, our own technology also has AI functionalities.
Mhm,
So we need to go through those approval processes before we can use that functionality as well.
mhm.
So that slows down
Right.
experimentation.
You were
But on
saying,
on the flip side, yeah, it is slower, but once you have it, the
right,
results are, you're not going to be questioned about that. So
right,
you have more
right.
chances of success basically afterwards.
Good. Next question here. How do you prevent human reviewers from becoming overly dependent on AI outputs and missing critical context errors during post-editing?
hmm Uh, $1 million question. I mean, we have that with empty post editing at the moment.
Yeah, that's been the
We
question
had it with
forever.
human translation and reviewers and review the
Right,
reviewer. And,
right.
uh,
For software, I think it's visual context is a key
yeah,
feature for that. If you've got it, I know it's important with our products, but
yeah, yeah. So
uh,
where it gets beautiful
it.
now, Adam, it's because we can give reasonably good translation, AI translation with the harnesses, etc., very quickly. So kind of it allows us to move from cycles where we translate 10 words here today.
Mhm,
At the next sprint cycle, we translate another 20 words. We can stop doing that and just, hey, AI translation, and then just before you're going to release, we involve the linguist in context review.
right, right,
And if you've
right,
set up the process well enough that as the linguistic changes get made, the feedback, it's over the air updates, etc., the feedback into the Git repos or whatever, then you have something
right,
beautiful
right.
where
Right.
you start
I'll even add that even before that, during the design phase in Figma is like a fabulous opportunity for
even
that.
better.
But
Yeah, yeah.
all right. What strategies work best when convincing cautious legal risk or compliance departments to approve AI deployment in high
hmm
stakes workflows? I think we
hmm
kind of covered some of that, but if you have
Yeah,
anything to
yeah.
add, yeah.
For us, it really was showing the metrics, of from the proof of concept, reduction
Uh-huh.
of risk, 77% down on critical errors. And we showed for the different markets, this was an average across them. So this really spoke for itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then having other people advocating for your solution as well. So that's where the socialization of your solution with other people, because it's not just your voice saying, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
look what we can bring." There's others that want it and will fight for it.
I'll just note you used the number 27% down on critical errors. I wrote that down. It's good.
77. It was very, very
Oh,
impressive.
77. I thought you said
77 on
27.
critical
70.
errors only, and those are the ones where um, we focused on feeding our systems, to prevent those.
Got it.
Yeah,
That's quite an impressive
that
number.
was yeah.
All right. We're up to 10 questions from the audience. All right. Um, okay, first question we just answered. Assuming that a big part of risk is having critical errors, how is the AI helping you find those critical errors? Well, we didn't go into the how,
Hmm.
just the number, the improvement. How did you figure that out?
Yeah, so that was the again during the evaluations that we did during the proof of concept, we
Mm-hmm,
analyzed these evaluations were done by internal subject matter
mm-hmm,
experts, medical
mm-hmm,
experts.
mm-hmm,
We designed the evaluation so that it would be very easy for them to categorize the errors and to give them like they just had, is this a
mm-hmm,
critical error? Is there an error here, but it wouldn't really lead to any adverse effects, or is this
mm-hmm,
good?
mm-hmm,
So it was from the critical errors, then we analyzed those. What type of
mm-hmm,
errors are these? What's causing them? What's the root cause? Um, and there were a couple of themes there, but a
mm-hmm,
key one was this one that I mentioned about the acronyms, shorthand, because the LLMs were getting those completely wrong. So that's where we focused then on extracting that kind of terminology at scale and
mm-hmm,
figuring
mm-hmm,
out that manner of populating the database
mm-hmm.
with as little effort as possible, but still good results.
Very good. All right. Do you contract out any of your localization work, or is it all done in-house?
No, we have no linguists, so most of
Uh,
it, I mean, we're just designing the systems.
mhm,
We're
mhm,
um, project and product managing. We're managing the terminology, of course, but we also use our language partners to help us build it. So
very good.
we've put effort into training them as well. So that enabling the partners is I see that as a responsibility that we have, but also, I mean, an investment.
Okay. This next question I actually don't understand. What are the harnesses that localization can provide? Um, uh, I don't know what he means.
Yeah, I think I can answer that. So it's this idea of language intelligence that again it's a mixture of language data, a language insights, prompting,
Mhm,
um, and then kind of the yeah kind of collaboration as well with engineering teams, development teams to feed that into the systems. So for us again,
okay.
this is like coming back to the use case of these communications between veterinarians and our consultants.
Mhm,
We'd be telling the system, so we have the terminology, of course, with all the metadata, etc., but we'd be telling the system, hey, this is a consultation, this is an oncology related, um,
mhm,
and
mhm,
this is a consultation, and this is what a consultation is. So kind of use that type of language. This is you know, um, this is a professional environment, whatever, so you kind of, it's prompt engineering to quite an extent, and
mhm.
then we're moving that farther now as we evolve it.
Okay. Okay, very good. If that didn't answer the question, just write me at the email that is on the screen here, and I'll work on that for you together with Esther. All right, could you walk through what one of your workflows looks like? Also, where is AI used and where are humans looped in?
Mhm. Yeah, I'll start with the where is AI used. So we do have some content types where we figured the balance between the benefit and the risk, or simply, is there enough benefit here? I see someone in chat commenting that they have small UI. A lot of our projects consist of small updates. Using AI would not result in any significant time or cost saving. Exactly. Like, so we don't use it there.
Hmm. Hmm.
At the moment, anyways, our thinking might evolve, but like there's areas where it's not really all that necessary. Where we use it is where time is critical and we're not going to have time to do it with humans
Hmm.
otherwise, or where there wouldn't be budget to do this otherwise. So we use AI in those cases. Now we differentiate between the cases where we have regulation and where we don't necessarily. If we have regulation, we do use the AI-powered functionalities within our TMS because it's important for us to keep the audit trails. Also, again, as I say, we want to collect intelligence from the um, approval cycles as well, from the regulatory approvals, etc. And then we have other use cases where that dual communication
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
perfect for pure LLM outside of the TMS. I think I may have gone off rail with this answer.
No,
I can't remember the beginning of it.
it it's very helpful. It's very good what you wrote. I'll tell you why another time. All right. Our own product development. This is good feedback. So,
Uh-huh.
um, all right. Um, Thanks, Esther, for the share. If you are now building your own platform, how many developers will Zoetis allocate in 2027 for the evolution of that platform?
Mhm. We have a small team, but we have front-end developer, back-end developer,
Uh-huh.
designer, business
Hmm.
analyst, etc. So it's um, we're learning to work in this environment. This is product management, which we had never done before.
Uh-huh.
Um, and yeah, the 2027. I'm not going to answer on the 2027 because there are some things up in the air, but um, yeah, it's interesting. Once you build a product, it's not just the product; it's the maintenance afterwards and the improvement and all of that.
Tell me about it. Wait till
Yeah,
you get into
yeah. You
corner
you know way
cases.
more than me about that,
Wait till you
Adam.
get into corner cases that you never would have thought of.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
All right. Do you
I
employed,
I've learned one thing, Adam. There's so many
yeah,
decisions to be made. It's crazy.
right?
I've got decision overload.
And then you
Silly
circle
things that you
back.
never think about. Yeah,
Yeah, and then you circle back like you get some more information. Was that right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
All right. All right. Do you employ retrieval augmented generation in cases in which the model's built-in knowledge is insufficient?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I'd
That's
consider even the injection of terminology I'd consider that retrieval
okay.
augmented generation. Yeah.
Good. I mean, there is really a difference between training and prompting that
Mhm.
was, personally initially misunderstood by me 2 years ago. I kept talking about training. It's like, no, you don't want to train, you want to
Mm,
prompt. But um, all right.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Also, do you use a custom trained in-house model or employ an existing model from one of the major AI providers?
Hmm. Um, it's not custom trained for us,
Hmm.
but it's yeah, no, I'll leave it simple. No, it's not a custom
Okay,
trained one. It's we're
right.
providing the so as you say, you don't want to train the model
Right.
necessarily, but we're
Hugely
providing
expensive.
the
Yeah.
overline or underline. I don't know where I want to
Mhm.
put it, but basically it's those harnesses that are going to make that model or any other model better. So I
Mhm.
think this is important as well because we start thinking about we're building modular architectures, if you like, if
Mhm.
we know the LLM models are going to continue evolving. So what
Mhm.
we want to build stuff that sits around it and can be used by the LLM, but it's
Mhm.
not part of the LLM. And that
Right.
way as well, it can be
Right.
useful for the TMS, for the
Right.
LLM, etc.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay, good. Um, wow, we still have a lot more. Um, we've got 6 minutes, so we probably won't hit everything. There are several people on LinkedIn waiting for the seminar to start.
Oops.
I'm going to ignore this one because
Yes, yes,
if you
Adam,
didn't
just
get it
just
by now, it's over. All
yeah,
right.
yeah, Adam, just keep it because yeah, we had some problems with live stream. I don't know, it's first time ever. And yeah, there are a few people who couldn't join. but I'll send
Oh,
recordings.
that's sad.
Sorry,
That's
sorry.
sad.
Yes, that's sad, but I tried
Yeah.
10 times to start it.
Okay.
I don't know what's happening.
That's the voice of Kate, and you all get emails from Kate, so you know her. All right. All right. How do you, oh, this is from a friend here. How do you determine the level of risk tolerance for the content you localize? Is it based on content type, for example?
Pretty much, yeah. It's but there's nuances, because again, if there's gonna be a regulatory step, we don't have to be perfect yet. As long as we can expedite the cycle without putting extra burden on the SME, that's good enough. And then let's learn from what the SME does afterwards.
Okay, very good. All right. You just mentioned a workflow with AI plus SME without need for a translator. What do you think of it? Is this the future?
Without a need for a translator in the middle. But the linguist is needed at the beginning, feeding the, kind of preparing the data, the terminology, style guides, market-specific instructions, and so on. And at the end, with those signals that might come back for what didn't work, or if we had a regulatory cycle, extracting those insights and figuring out what's valuable or not, and so on.
Okay, very good. All right. Do you still use any traditional CAT or TQA tools as part of your workflow?
We do, yeah. I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. Like there's too much complexity there with file types and like I mean, never say never because things are moving very fast. But the workflows, and the ability, the traceability and that comes with existing workflows where you can go back and see who did what, when, at what stage. That's very valuable as well.
Right. I really don't think Trato Studio is going away, as well. All right. A lot of our products, wow, this is our last question. We did it. A lot of our projects consist of small updates. Using AI during translation edit would not really result in any significant time or cost savings. In cases that you do, in cases like that, do you use AI then for other tasks? You referred to this a little bit.
Yeah. And it makes total sense, like there's many places where we could be using AI. We don't have to use it everywhere. If there's no benefit, why would we use it? No.
Yeah. Okay, very good. All right, that concludes our webinar. Gosh, we're ending on time. I usually talk too much. All right.
The same, Adam.
This has been a pleasure, Esther. Really nice to work with you. Really good answers. Thank you to the audience for asking so many great questions and your involvement and staying on. Oh, we're getting some hearts. That's cool. And we'll have, I wasn't going to do a webinar for August, but I think we're going to do sort of like a mini webinar. So I'll update you with email on that when we're doing that. In the meantime, for many of you, I hope you're enjoying your summer and having a little family time if that's appropriate for you and all that. Thank you again, Esther. And hope to see you next month. And then certainly for September, we'll have a pretty big bang. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.